Welcome to the Nate and Dorin podcast. We are professional videographers based in Vancouver, Canada, and we are here to talk about relevant topics within the video and media industry. I'm Nate, and I run Nate Dixon Media.
And I'm Dorin, the videographer, freelance entrepreneur offering video production services. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the gear that we use to produce videos and the workflow of completing projects. And the way we're going to segment this is we're going to talk about the gear that we're currently using, and then we're going to talk about the workflow in terms of after we're done filming, what do we do with the footage? How do we organize a project? All of that. So, Nate, tell me what is your current gear that you're using, and maybe tell us why that's your main gear right now. Why you chose it over your previous gear? What's the favorite features or the benefits, and also the drawbacks? Because no
Mm,
camera is perfect. I think you can agree with this.
yeah, you're right about that. There's definitely no perfect camera that I've found yet. You got to use the right tool for the job. So for me, the tool that looked like the best for getting the most jobs done, so to speak, for me was the Sony A7 III. So I've had that for a while now. I actually used it at a previous job closer to when it first came out, so I had some experience with it before, and then I bought my own last year, and I've been using that. And I think my favorite features about it would be the autofocus performance, just like the eye tracking, the face tracking. It's all super good. So I feel like I don't need to have that big monitor to like constantly be checking if things are in focus. I can like trust that that box on the face is like nailing the focus. And also the low light performance, the fact that it's full frame. It's, you don't have to the same trade-offs as like the A7S series where sometimes you get some more rolling shutter. The fact it's only 12 megapixels, like I wanted something that I could also use for some stills. Like in my personal life at home, we're always taking photos of like the kids and stuff. So I wanted something that had lots of the autofocus comes in really handy there too, is when I'm trying to get, the kids running around and smiling or something. They're always moving. So I wanted something that I could also snap some good photos with. So the A7 III is the right set of compromises right now for me. The biggest drawbacks, one, Sony lenses are way more expensive
Yeah,
than
100%.
I I kind of realized when I bought that camera. When
Oh yeah.
like I'm borrowing a lens from you and from another friend, like not even the G Master series. It's like what? I just I that kind of caught me off guard coming from Canon, where you've got your L series lenses, which are a little pricey, but um, yeah, that kind of caught me off guard. And also the fact that it doesn't have a flip out screen that turns around. So if you're trying to set up a video interview, you're sitting where the talent would be sitting, you want to check your framing, you can't just flip it around. You just have your little bit of tilt and that's it. And that's probably one of the one of the biggest things that irks me when shooting with that camera without like a really light setup, without having like an extra monitor on top that I can rotate around and that I'm not recording externally to, just like super light
Mm.
uh, run and gun style. That's something that I think they could have had, and that I had in the Canon 70D, which I had years before. Like it's not a new feature. I don't know why
So
they
many
didn't think
cameras
of it.
have it. Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's I have to agree, yeah, and I have the exact same camera, so I agree with all your points. I do want to ask a slight nuance to what you said regarding the autofocus. Do you like the fact that it has so many tracking points and you don't lose focus once you lock it in, or the fact that it switches autofocus when you need to, like when it detects another person entering the scene or something like that? Does it switch autofocus fast? Is that what you like? Or the fact that it maintains the focus once it's locked in?
I think the fact that it maintains it.
Hmm.
So yeah, so even if you're trying to like do a shot where you have the further thing in focus and you're trying to obscure it a bit with a foreground object to add some more interest or some more movement to the shot. Yeah, you're testing out the
Yeah,
autofocus
I'm
of it right
I'm
now.
I'm recording on an A7 III right now, and even on one eyeball, it's keeping it there for
Mhm.
most of the time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So I love how it locks focus and keeps it really well.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So that's what I really like about the autofocus for video and for photo. It's awesome.
Sweet. What else you got?
Oh, well, a new addition is the Ronin Sc2. So this is the first gimbal that I've bought and not just rented. Um,
Mm,
and so that came out pretty recently. I got it fairly recently after it got released. And one of I think my favorite feature would be, well, twofold. Just the fact that actually I've got it right here in my bag. Let me grab it and I can show you.
all right, go for it, Nate. Look at that background. He's got a GoPro there. All those CDs.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you can see right here, there's that little dial right there. So it's like nice and weighty, very
Oh.
smooth. And you can program that to adjust different things on the camera when you have the camera cable connected. So I have it set to adjust my ISO. So I've got my shutter speed locked, kind of matching with the frame rate. I've got my aperture locked. And so when I'm going to darker, lighter environments, I just quickly adjust the dial on the
Mhm.
go. So I really like that. And then also the fact that it's got the record button right there. So I don't have to like lift my hand up, push the record button, and it like shakes a little bit. I can just like, boom, start, stop right there.
Mhm.
Um, some of the other gimbals that I've used before, the camera control it didn't work for the camera I was using, or it was unreliable. So this is kind of a new to me feature, and I really appreciate that about this gimbal.
Mhm.
So
Is it one-handed operation,
it
or
can be
does it
one.
have enough room for both?
There's like that little tripod you can screw on the bottom that doubles as a handle extension. So I usually just have that screwed on and then I hold it with two hands. Now, being left-handed, it is kind of awkward if you want to use the joystick. It's kind of feels more natural for your right hand to naturally go there. So, I find myself not using the joystick very often because it's just kind of awkwardly placed for left-handed people.
Mm.
So that's something you'd want to test out in store if you do shoot things left-handed, or I do some things right-handed, some things left-handed, but this feels awkward to me holding it the way it naturally would if I'm holding it like a tennis racket or something,
Yeah.
banging somebody over the head with this. Yeah. So, and another, I'd say the biggest drawback about this one for me is it's the double-edged sword of that connection cable, that camera control cable. When it's connected, it disables the stabilization on the camera.
Oh man.
So it like
I mean, it
there's still
doesn't
micro,
need it if it's on the gimbal. True.
no, but there's still like kind of micro shakes that can happen, and nothing that like Premiere or DaVinci can't solve. Like it still gets taken out, but it's kind of, I wish it didn't have that built in. And also, dual slot recording gets disabled when you have the connection cable.
Hmm.
So when I tried like
Okay. Hmm.
disconnecting it, record to dual slot, for safety. But when it's connected, it says like this feature is unavailable. I went into the menus of the A7 III and you actually can't enable that when a camera connection cable is connected.
Have you tried disconnecting the cable, starting dual slot, and reconnecting cable?
No, I'm not sure that would work.
Try
That
your
seems too
camera.
dumb to work. Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah,
Interesting.
that would be my experience so far. But overall, love the gimbal, super smooth.
So if you
Uh,
wanted to use let's say you have a running shot, like you have to follow somebody fast paced, uh, you, I guess the compromise would be to keep the IBIS and the dual slot and just not use the connection cable, but you'll still get the benefit of the gimbal
yeah, in
stabilization.
that case, I would take that over the luxury of being able to push start and stop record with my thumb.
Yeah. Okay.
Or if we're going indoor and outdoor, if it's all the same lighting situation, then I don't need to adjust anything on the fly. So in that case, I would take the dual slot and the IBIS over that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because when if this year goes really good for me, that's one upgrade I'm considering. So that's good to know. That's something for me to ponder.
Hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Another piece of gear is my Gura gear backpack. So this is a like waterproof, rugged kind of hiking style camera backpack, and the best thing about it that I like, besides its like just durability, is inside there's very customizable padding. So there's like long strip and then there's like shorter bits. So you can
Hmm.
basically set it up to fit whatever gear you want to inside of it. So I can fit my gimbal, my camera, an extra lens, field recorder, batteries, everything. There's all like zippered pouches, so many places to store things, and all that customizable inside padding. So I really like that. Biggest drawback I'd say would be the fact that there's no spot on the side for like sliding a tripod in. I have two really small like travel style tripods, and the little elasticized kind of drink holder area doesn't quite hold it in, and there's no like side straps to keep it secure. So I
Is
feel
it
like
is it the one you have? You just grabbed the gimbal from?
yeah, if you want to
Yeah,
see.
I want to see.
Sure.
It
So,
sounds very similar to what I have.
okay. So this is what it looks like here.
Yeah,
You can either zip just one side open, so you can flip it open like that.
yeah,
Or if you zip both sides, you take open the whole thing.
yeah.
Here's the customizable
Oh,
pouches.
and you bent that. Yeah, I like that. You bent
Yeah, I
the
bent that
divider there. Yeah.
to fit the gimbal in. Yeah, so I really like how customizable that is. There's like pouches here and
Yeah.
here. You can actually tuck all these in and like zip it all closed so there's no straps hanging out if you
Oh,
just are going to toss it on the ground and you don't want the straps hanging out.
yeah.
So you can take that on and off.
That's cool.
But there's little things that you can like maybe clip some binners onto, but this does not hold the tripod on, and there's no straps that go around the side on either side. On
Oh,
this side, there's just another handle, but the tripod doesn't quite fit in there.
yeah.
It's just like another grab handle. So I feel like that is something that's kind of missing.
Oh, okay.
And
I
the other
wanna
thing,
I wanna go show you mine because mine is very similar, but it does have a little strap for the tripod. I have no idea what brand it is. I can't remember. Let me just
okay,
grab it really quick.
sure.
All right, back. So
Mm.
yeah, mine's got the headphones, the dividers,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got a little pouch in there, even an SD card stuff over here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and flip it around. So the tripod would go like on the outside back here, and this would just click like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would just fold it in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also got like um, at the bottom, it's got a place to rest the feet, so it's not dangling outward.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
oh, and it's low pro.
Gotcha.
I think I got it from Best Buy like
Cool.
7 years ago.
And then I think the only other thing I wish that backpack had would be like a laptop sleeve, because there's no place easy to put a like
Mm,
a computer if you want to check the footage in the field or anything like that. Um,
yeah.
so
Yeah, mine
yeah,
can't take anything above a 15 inch.
well, at least that's something you could put.
Yeah. I mean,
One.
I don't know if you're referring to a specialized laptop sleeve. I'm just referring to like this thing at the front where you can put something in here.
Okay,
My
so
gloves got like got
mm,
this.
okay,
I usually put a laptop here.
gotcha. This one, there's like this divider in the middle.
Oh.
So what might have had space for that laptop, they decided to make it into separate like four different segments. And then the same thing with the front bit. It's two separate areas.
Mhm. Okay,
So
I
there's
guess
no one
it's
big area.
more specialized for tiny equipment management and cables and stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, overall, been happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the last piece of gear I'd want to talk about would be what I edit on. So I recently switched from a MacBook Pro to a desktop PC. And once I got all the drivers and stuff figured out, like it is a breeze to edit on
Mm-hmm.
compared to the MacBook Pro. Um, my favorite feature so far for editing is the CUDA hardware acceleration. Like as long as you have an NVIDIA graphics card, um,
Mm-hmm.
exporting from Premiere is like 10 to 20 times as fast as I had before.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an NVIDIA graphics card in my MacBook Pro. It was an older one, so it was supported. But then they removed support and they adopted like Apple's metal, hardware acceleration instead of NVIDIA anymore. So they stopped supporting it. So they literally slowed down my exports with their updates. So thanks Adobe for that.
Oh man.
um, yeah, and I know the new Macs with like the M1 chips and stuff are like really stinking fast, and that's great. But the set of trade-offs just didn't make sense for me anymore. Like I'm doing 95% of my editing from home, so I don't need something super powerful that needs to be portable all the time. There's no thermal throttling with a desktop PC, so I don't need to worry about things overheating or performance suffering from like just the thermal limitations of a laptop compared to a desktop,
Mm-hmm.
and just the fact that I can like get 64 gigs of RAM, which you can't on the new MacBooks right now.
Oh.
So everything's modular. You can upgrade things as you need. So I've got a 12 core AMD CPU,
Oh my.
64 gigs of RAM, a 3070, so one of the new NVIDIA 3070 graphics cards. So it definitely does what I need. I can play back, my old MacBook, I could barely handle 4K at all. And like, as soon as you add like lumetri color to it or something, forget about playback in real time.
Mm.
So this thing can handle everything I'm editing 4K, color corrected, and like I said, the CUDA acceleration exporting is like insane for Premiere.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my favorite features about PC. The biggest drawback is I don't really like Windows 10 compared to Mac. I prefer the cleaner Mac interface and the integration with my iPhone. So the fact that I can do iMessage and AirDrop from my phone to my computer easily. So like
Okay.
if I want to post a vertical video to Instagram or something, I can just go boom and it transfers right away. I don't need to think, oh, what file sharing service am I going to use? Do I have to email it to myself? Do you have any good solutions for sharing to your phone from your PC quickly videos and stuff?
Sounds like you need to get rid of that iPhone and get an Android.
Oh, great.
Sharing from my PC to my phone?
Yeah.
Not really. I just email stuff to myself.
Oh,
Because like on PC, you can't post stuff on Instagram. You have to do it off the mobile app, which is like, why? Um, so I just email myself or Google Drive myself the photo or video.
hmm. Yeah.
I
So, but
guess
still,
you could use like Bluetooth, but my PC doesn't have that, so.
hmm. Yeah, so I mean, I miss the older Mac interface. The newest Mac interface, I'm not really a fan of. The fact that it's starting to look more like iOS and act more like iOS. It's just becoming kind of less customizable, less controlled, and it's very buggy right now. So there was a few different reasons why I switched to PC, but
Was there not an option to lock your Mac on a certain version, or do they shove updates?
if you want one of the new M1 chip Macs, it ships with that new version. You
Yeah.
can't
Uh,
choose, yeah,
oh
you can't
well.
go backwards. So yeah, I decided to jump ship, and I still have the MacBook Pro if I, in a pinch I need to bring something to the field or whatever. But
Mm.
now all my editing is on PC now, and
All right.
yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah. Time
But
will
enough about
tell reliability and satisfaction.
yeah. So enough about my gear. Why don't you tell us more about what Dorin, the videographer, uses?
Sure. So currently I use the same camera as you, so I won't go over camera features because we're in agreement. A Sony A7 III. I got two of them. In addition to the two Sonys, I have uh, the two Sony mirrorless. I have one Sony Z90 camcorder, and I actually had this before the mirrorless because I was using a Nikon DSLR, which the Sony replaced for the same reasons you mentioned, autofocus and low light especially.
Mm.
But why do I have this camcorder? This camcorder I have because it's got a, um, a zoom dongle thing, um,
Toggle?
like what's
Rocker.
rocker? Yeah, that's a better term for it. Um, and rocker, yeah. And that was important for some clients that needed like a smooth zoom in on certain things, so especially for corporate. So when someone walks in this on stage, they would want me to go with the wide shot and follow them to the podium. And it's got a built-in SDI and HDMI, which made it be accessible and compatible with other videographers that I was working with for their live streaming connectivity.
Mm.
So that proved really useful, and it's got built-in ND filters, and it's just it's got its purposes. It's a better run and gun because it's got the ND filter built in, the XLR audio built in. You just grab it and go. But the one thing I guess that is that I don't like about it is compared to a mirrorless, it's not the same image. It's not the same color space. The skin tones are not as soft, and you're stuck with the one lens, which has variable exposure, so you can't keep it at f2.8. It'll the aperture will go up to like f5.6, I think. Um, but for the Sonys, I do have accessories that I really like. So I have like a cage around the A7 III, which makes it awesome for adding extra hot shoes or extra, mounting my external monitor and my microphone. But the downside is the extra cage kind of makes it awkward to plug in the HDMI and the mic in, and it just makes it harder to access the side inputs. One accessory that I really love is I got a V-mount battery that has two D-taps so that it powers both the A7 III with a dummy battery and it powers my Ninja 5 or Ninja V with the second D-tap, and it powers both of them for 8 hours. So that is my solution for never having to switch battery, uh, and film an entire day and not be constrained by cables. That is like my favorite feature using this V-mount battery thing. However, I don't know how I incorrectly used it once because it fried my HDMI port, which is connected and an integral part of the chipboard of the A7 III. So that was a $500 ouchie.
Oh,
The camera still worked, but I could not, it would not send a signal via HDMI out anymore. So I had to switch for that project because it happened during a in front of a client. I had to switch to SD cards, which I luckily had on hand. I always have a backup plan.
so it wasn't the dummy battery, it was the HDMI port.
The HDMI port is the thing they gave out. I don't know what I did, and even Fusion Cine, because I went to them, they didn't know why it happened. But my hypothesis is I had everything plugged in and I turned everything on at the same time. So like the Ninja powering on and the A7 III powering on and that going through the HDMI because the HDMI is asking for a signal to. Now I've learned my lesson. What I do is I plug one in, turn the A7 III on, turn the Ninja on, then put the HDMI cable.
After everything's powered on.
Yeah, so that's
Gotcha.
that's my solution, and so far it hasn't happened a second time. But I'm assuming it's. I mean, it shorted out my circuit board, so it has to be the V mount because that's the only power supply. So that's why I'm kind of like tagging this on that one. It's obviously user error, but
Mm,
um, yeah, can do that. And my last accessory for the A7 III is ND filters. I learned the
mm,
hard way, like, oh yeah, let's go film a music video outdoors in bright sunlight. Guess what? You're not gonna get that f2.8, Nate. You're
mm,
not, or f1.8 actually on that lens. Not in bright daylight. So you need ND filters to darken that thing. I had to
mm.
go to f22, and I don't know if you noticed this with your A7 III, but maybe this is in general for all like mirrorless or DSLR, but it struggles with autofocus at f22 when it's that like tight.
Mm.
And it was like because the depth of field is so small, you don't really notice it until afterwards in post, and you're like, why is it doing this? Like,
Uh,
yeah.
Question, Dorin, did you get one of those variable ones where you twist the ring, or do you have separate ones that you swap out depending on what strength you want?
For two of my lenses, my for the kit lens, the 24 to 70, I have a circular one, and for this one for the 45 mil 1.8, I got fixed a 3 pack for my telephoto zoom, the 70 to 200. That one I didn't want to do circular.
Mm,
Because the circular does have a vignetting. It has, it's obviously the plus to that is you get to uh,
dial it in.
adjust it on the go and you don't have to unscrew it and put the other one in.
Hmm.
But the vignetting, I wanted for this one to not have that issue.
And that's only when you're at like the widest angle, some of these lenses, right?
Widest and a specific twist setting. So like you think
Mm,
of autofocus. If you put it at infinity, even stars are out of focus. You're supposed to go a bit before infinity. Same concept here.
gotcha.
Yeah. At least with the ones that I got, which were, the cheapest ones, but the cheapest, best reviewed ones. Like the
Ooh.
cheapest 5-star ones that had good reviews. Yeah. And like another thing with ND filters is you have to be so delicate. A fingerprint or a scratch on it, it's like,
Mm,
but they're so hard to grab.
mm.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered getting like a matte box where you just like slide the filters in and out the top? You don't have to screw anything on.
Uh, not have like for the A7 III, with the cage, I'm not sure if that would be an issue. Then you would have a harder time accessing lens and quickly switching through lenses. Like another
Hmm.
one of those like plus versus minus. Here's the thing. Now that you reminded me, I think both of us can agree that all of these items that we're listing, we got out of necessity. We noticed a demand in our clients or in the projects that we're doing, and that's why we got them. Right? Is that correct with you too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't had a need for a matte box yet.
Mm. Cool. What
Because
else you got?
Yeah. I mean, I got a gimbal too. It's a Mozart Air. It's like 3 years old, and it came with a dual handle, and it was really affordable. It was like, I don't know, $500, and it did an awesome job. But it's outdated now. Like hearing what the Ronin Sc2 is doing, I'm like, I once
Mm.
again do that. And it's the motors are kind of worn out. They're kind of giving in. So that's an upgrade begging to happen.
Mm.
That's all I can say about that. I had mentioned previously that I got a DJI Mini 2 drone, and just
Hmm.
everything about it is amazing. The sub 250 grams, the 4K 100 megabits, 1080 60, the quick shots. I actually had a client today where I used the quick shots and just made life so much easier. Like so many
So,
features that are like, wow.
so the quick shots. Tell me more about those.
So quick shots are the drone is a you're able to tap, and it can select a subject to motion track, or to just keep a track on, and it'll have preset shapes and paths like circle or a helix or a straight shoot up or a straight uh, go backwards and higher up. Each one of those has like a name, and it's just a preset, and you get to choose the distance or the height, and it just does it smoothly for you. You don't have to operate it. Because let me tell you, I did out of curiosity try to do like a circle around myself as a subject. It's it's like I'm not gonna say impossible, but for my current flying skill level, there's no way to rotate the drone and make it perfectly angle at the same distance, like without going farther or
Mm.
closer. But with the quick shot, it just auto does it because it's like, okay, it puts a box around what you tapped, that's your subject, and it like senses distance to it.
That makes it almost too easy, doesn't it? Takes the skill out of it.
I mean, I don't know how drone people, if they were doing, thinking of drone videos before, nobody was actually doing a circling thing that I remember. Everyone's doing like, overhead shots, or like the camera's going up, or the drone's going up and the camera's slowly following and panning up. Like slow cinematic shots are usually the drone shots. These are more like action or glory shots or whatever you want to call them.
Glory shots.
Well, yeah, man, because it's just spinning 360 and revealing surroundings like crazy,
Mm.
like really epic. And it actually, I filmed not today, but my practice run last week. It was in really high winds, and it got to a point where it was losing the fight with the wind, and it got slightly off trajectory, but the footage was still stable because that gimbal was so good. This blows my mind.
Mm.
A lot of good things about the Mini too. I mean, the only bad thing I can say is the features it's missing compared to the higher end drones, which is obstacle and collision detection. So you have to really be careful to not send it to do a quick shot into a tree because it's not gonna stop.
Mm.
And I guess the image sensor is not the biggest it can be, so it's not getting maybe too much dynamic range or low light capabilities, but uh, I can't really fly a drone at night anyway because it's like you can't see it.
Mm.
um, how are we doing for time? Pretty good. So I think I'll just add two more quick items because I do have a bit more gear than you because I've been doing the freelance thing for like 3 years now, and every year I just keep adding stuff because it's like growing. Um,
But you're subtracting your beard now, I see.
I yeah, yeah. I wish I would have postponed that for another week because I was gonna do a cheesy intro next week when we're gonna have a guest, and I was gonna be like something totally different today. Our guest. But yeah, no, yeah, the drone got cut in the beard, so I had to, just like bubble gum, you have to just get it off.
I don't
Yeah. I also do multi-camera live switching. So that was something I added last year, and I have a Roland V60 Switcher. And that takes SDI and HDMI camera inputs, and you can do multi-camera switching, just like the news or a sporting event. It's got up to 6 video inputs and 4 XLR inputs, so you can do concerts and stuff if you want. Uh, a whole bunch of stuff that it does. It's really expensive. That was probably the only thing I can complain about it.
Mm.
It's not as big as I thought it would be, for how many features it has. Like I've seen audio mixers that like take up an entire table. That's what I thought this was gonna be. Like no, it's no bigger than your keyboard. Width wise, it's maybe a bit more depth wise, but really expensive.
And then you also need a laptop to take that and use software to switch it all, correct?
Yeah, this one, other switchers have a built-in encoder and streamer. This one doesn't because I wanted that flexibility because I use OBS and I like having, even though it's complicating and it's adding to things that can go wrong, I like having the flexibility of picking, adding an interface, just like we have here for our podcast, designing a layout and customizing stuff. So yeah, you'll need either a laptop or some kind of streaming encoding device.
Mm-hmm. So that just takes the inputs and switches them. It doesn't process them much.
Yeah, it doesn't process them. No.
Gotcha. Cool, cool.
Um, yeah, and I guess lastly, I have a dolly. Um, one of those that you use to move furniture and stuff. Because I have all this gear, it's actually such a pain to transport. So I ended up putting stuff in boxes, totes, and it's so much easier to load and stack because you just put the toad one on top of the other on the dolly and just roll it in. I've seen a top videographer do that, and I was like, that's a good idea. But that guy had so many cables and he had like he took care of audio visual as well, so he had like projector and he had like a speaker system and he had
Mm-hmm.
the audio mixer and the microphone. So that guy had like a truck's worth of equipment. And I'm slowly getting to that point, although I don't want to invest in any audiovisual stuff. But uh, yeah, rather than buy a bunch of cases, I don't need cases for cables, so a box is good enough. Same with the lights. So the lights pack nicely into a box. I don't have to unzip each individual light from their case. Now they're all easily accessible.
And you're not going anywhere like off-road where you'd need like a Pelican case or something with really rugged wheels.
Not yet. Like we said, if the need does come for that, then I'll be forced to think of solutions to a problem. But for now, everything's like, all right. Most of my clients have my corporate clients have an elevator in their building, so and an underground parkade, so it's just wheel it in.
Mm.
Yeah. But if I didn't have accessibility, I would be breaking my back with all this stuff. But it would still be better to carry it in a box than have like bags and bags and like I don't know, because that's how I started out. I remember I would have stuff in bags and like okay, tripod bag, okay, camera bag, okay, light bag, and I would have to like run back and forth to my car 3 times to get all the stuff. And I'd be like already sweating before even like shaking hands with a client. So yeah, I definitely think that is a feature gear that I have because it just makes my life so much easier. And I've actually had clients tell me like, "Wow, everything's so neatly packed and just I'm wheeling in all of this gear." They've complimented the professionalism.
Mm. So the only downside is you don't get as much of a workout.
Well, the downside is you have to figure out what to put in the boxes in such a way that they don't like you can't put certain things together because they'll like hit each other or scratch each
Mm.
other. So like everything kind of still needs to have its own box, and you might have to compartmentalize within them, which is hard. Because like you said, they're not Pelicans that have dividers. These are just like $20 Canadian Tire storing totes. and they were really bulky. So I was actually constrained to get the smaller ones so that I can fit them through a doorway. Like figuring out how to stack them and but still have stuff fit that's big, like my lights, was a pretty big challenge.
Mm,
So it's more like it's not the ideal solution. It's just like, this is what works right now, and it passes for good. So yeah,
cool. Any other gear you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think that pretty much wraps it up. And let's get into workflow.
Okay. Why don't I start? So,
Please do.
once I ingest all my footage, I like to rename the audio and the video. So, I've had it before where I don't rename the clips, and every time you format the card, it starts the counter back. So it'll be like C0005, C0006, and so on. And sometimes when you're trying to relink files in Premiere, it will, like, for example, if the clip size is the exact same, the name's the exact same, it can accidentally relink the wrong file. And I've had it even before where it didn't even
Mhm.
ask to relink an offline file. It just automatically interpreted a different clip with the same name as that file. And I barely caught it when it was exporting. And I was like, oh my goodness, it got the wrong clip. So if you're working with a lot of footage
Mm.
and it's all like on one drive, then that's something that can really trip you up or trip the software up. So I typically try and rename it, with the subject, the date, because sometimes the files dates can get changed or the camera's battery resets or something. So like things can happen and you can't always trust the date modified or date created on the metadata. So
So
I rename
by
that.
ingest, do you mean when you import it into the project or when you just copy it on your hard drive?
I'll rename it after I copy it on the hard drive. So
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
guess copying and then ingesting, it's already renamed.
You're right. Okay, I see.
Yeah, inside the project.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'll do that. I think that's a thing that you can miss and that can mess you up down the road. Another thing is I like to try and keep projects contained in one folder. So what I see some people doing, and there's no right or wrong way. This is the way I prefer to do it.
Right.
But some people will keep their projects all saved in one, project files, and then you have your 20 different projects you have on the go. And then your design files, you've got it all scattered throughout. Some are in your downloads folder, some are in your assets folder. And, you're just picking and drawing from everywhere on your computer. Maybe it's an external drive that you're borrowing. And I really think that if you need to switch computer or if you need to hand the project off to another editor to do some work, it's much easier if you have it all in one place. You've got your capture files, you've got your design files, you've got your project files. Say if you need a Premiere project and an After Effects project, you save both of those in that project files, and then your exports. The only thing I don't keep there is, um, let's say, like your Scratch folder, right, where it's generating your previews and stuff that can be regenerated next time you open the project somewhere else. So that's the only thing that I don't really care about keeping in the same place
Hmm.
would be cache files because those can be regenerated if you're switching to another machine or anything like that. So I love doing that to keep it all in one place. If you if anything goes wrong, you know exactly where every file is that you're working on in that project.
Hmm.
So that is something that I really focus on. That's a big part of my workflow.
Okay, I got a trick question for you.
Oh, what's that?
Do you have, let's say you downloaded stock music or you have music that you've used for a personal project or for a previous client project. And let's say you have a new project and you want to use that same file. Do you link to the one file or do you make a second copy but now you have two copies of the same file, one in each project folder?
I will make a second copy of that and copy it to that project. So if it's a song, sure, maybe it's 10 megabytes extra. There's a duplicate.
Mm,
I'd rather have that duplicate and know exactly where that is and where it can be linked than worry about, let's say I back up that personal project and I archive it. I copy it to my external hard drive, it's a backup.
mm,
Then I'm like, then I open up this new project and I can't find it anymore. I have
yeah.
to plug it back in, do all that.
Yeah.
Everything relies on that spider web of interconnected things all being exactly the same all the time. So I will make a duplicate of that.
All right.
Yeah.
Good answer.
That wasn't much of a trick question.
I mean, some people, can't be bothered, or some people have um will keep certain assets in like I'm talking about like big projects and big workflows. They'll have all their design elements stored separately than current project, because maybe the current project is on an SSD and everything else is being stored on a hard drive, for example. You know,
Mhm.
kind of thinking back to the workplace that we both were at. We kind of did it that way. We would have a lot of core elements on the main server, um, and we would copy them. I think that's what we did.
Mhm.
But until we got that server, it was just plugging in hard drives in the
Mhm.
toaster drive reader.
Yeah,
Remember
the
that?
toaster slot or like, yeah, those old Mac towers where you had like what, 3 hard drive slots with those brackets. Yeah, you'd have to plug in the right hard drives to get it all working properly. What
Like,
a
oh, can
nightmare.
you pass me the design files folder or hard drive?
Yeah. And with SSDs, the capacity they're at and how cheap storage is nowadays, I don't think that's even a problem that needs to be solved anymore.
True. Big true.
You know? Big true.
Big one. It's huge.
Biggest true. Um, yeah, one more thing I recently discovered that I'm kind of adding to my workflow. Right now, I've focused mainly on Premiere Pro with most of my editing in my years as a video editor. But I'm kind of checking out Davinci Resolve right now, and Dorin, the audio syncing and like multicam syncing is next level compared to
Oh,
Premiere Pro. It is nuts.
no. I don't
So,
believe.
in Premiere Pro, you're like,
Yeah.
let's say you've got one long audio track and you film like 10 clips.
Hmm.
Um, it'll sync all the clips to that one audio track.
Yeah.
It'll give you like the sequence. And then you have your big long audio track and then your clips all on like a different layer, right?
Yeah.
Like 10 layers,
Yeah.
the audio track. So to use those, you need to like trim the audio track where those clips start and end, drag the video track, drag all the video clips down to the one track so they're like tight together with the audio track. And then you can move it to your main sequence or whatever.
Yeah. You do have to do all those moves. Yes.
Okay. So DaVinci Resolve, you can just highlight all the clips in the bin. You right click, sync. You can either sync via timecode, but I don't shoot with timecode. You can sync via waveform. So as long as your source clip has scratch audio, it will sync it with your target audio, automatically pair it to that clip, and trim the audio so it's only the length of that clip. So you've got your hour of audio or whatever, your 10 clips. It only saves the audio that is going over those clips. So your 1 minute clip that's at the start of it, you just drag that clip onto the timeline as normal. It just appends the audio track underneath. So you have your scratch audio and your cleaner audio attached to that clip already. So you can delete the scratch audio if you want or whatever. But the audio is already trimmed to that clip, and you don't have to manually cut it, slice it, move it from that multicam created sequence to your main sequence. It's already done all in that clip automatically.
Mm,
It is really nice.
okay. I'll have to try it out.
So that is a big advantage of Resolve over Premiere that I've discovered recently. That I've discovered in,
You've discovered, but have you implemented in your workflow?
yeah,
Are you
yeah, the
editing
latest
projects on
project
DaVinci now?
yeah, the my a current project I'm working on, I'm editing on DaVinci, and So I'm kind of learning all the color tools, which is so much more robust than Premiere. But I'm also kind of learning all these little things that it does differently slash better in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So,
You might drop the Adobe suite soon, eh?
oh, I wouldn't go that far. I'm still way faster in Premiere, and some things Premiere is just
Yeah,
faster
it's
at.
hard to give up After Effects and Photoshop though. That's the problem.
Yeah, Black Magic is getting there though. Like
Are you using the
Resolve.
free DaVinci?
Yeah,
Oh, all right. Sweet
yeah.
features for free.
There's a few things that they don't have in the free version, like you can't do noise reduction. I think is
And
not.
their noise reduction is so good.
But like
You'd
this.
have to pay plugins to get what you get in the standard DaVinci. Well, paid
Oh,
DaVinci, but yeah.
mhm. Yeah. So the stabilization too inside the clips is just way better and faster.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Oh, like
Uh,
yeah, I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg. I'm trying to explore as much as I can with this project,
yeah.
but already that syncing the audio to the clip and like building it into the clip automatically, super handy.
Sounds like
So
you're sinking the Adobe Premiere boat.
syncing due to the syncing.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
I did it, Nate. I did it. We just lost our one listener to the podcast. Goodbye,
Yeah.
fellow listener. Thank you.
All right. Why don't you share a bit about your workflow? Any tips or things that you've learned?
Yeah. I mean, pretty similar to what you have mentioned. I've gotten into the habit of moving a current project that I'm working on onto an SSD for quicker playbacks, especially if it's like multi-clip or multi-camera or 4K. And once a project is complete, I have a 6 terabyte hard drive that I put the like everything, the exports and the whole project, because I keep it
Mhm.
for 6 months. As the way I operate. After 6 months, I'll delete the footage and just keep the exports indefinitely for clients.
Okay.
And I have another 6 terabyte backup hard drive for that. So I've learned from our previous workplace that you can never go wrong with a backup, even to your archive.
Hmm.
That's I think that's number one that I need to mention in just editing on an SSD. And yeah, you're right. They've gotten so much cheaper compared to like 3, 4 years ago. Like I got a 2 terabyte uh, internal like M.2 SSD, and it's just like so fast. And it was like $280 for a 2 terabytes. That's a pretty good deal. Um, in terms of like the tricky thing with me with having recurring clients is kind of what you said with like everything in its own project folder, but then you need to make a new project folder for the new project, but for the same client. So in that instance, I just refer to the design elements that are in the first folder. I don't copy them over because they're already on the same hard drive because I don't want to spread clients on multiple hard drives. That's just asking for trouble. Um, so folder naming conventions I have had to come up with in order to organize um, clients' projects. I had to add year in there, and then I had to add months when a client asked me for two things in the same year, and a lot of things you just learn on the go. I haven't been renaming my files, though I haven't had issues yet, so currently not doing that. But I do keep everything in its own camera folder that is named appropriately. Like I won't just say cam one or two, I'll say cam one wide, cam two close up. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'll be as descriptive as possible. And that combined with the date into the title will make it so that hopefully Premiere never confuses two files named C001.m before. Um, Here's a question for you, Nate. because you've probably had, like, even your bosses at workplaces and clients that you've had in your freelance, you've had stuff that you thought like is finalized, and then they're like, can we do this one change? Do you overwrite that export, or do you keep it and name the new one version 2?
Yeah, I'll try and keep a record of the changes. So yeah, I'll make a version 2.
Hmm.
But at the end, after it's finalized, I'll delete all the other versions. And
Okay,
chances are I've uploaded those all those different iterations on like frame.io or YouTube as unlisted. So they're like saved somewhere in the cloud. So they're still accessible, but I don't need a local copy of all those changes.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So that's how I handle that.
Yeah, from a legal point of view, I would have suggested to keep proof of iterations and of work. Not hopefully none of us ever need to go that route of defending like, yeah, I have done a bunch of work, like where it's just this one video and I'm not happy with it. Like that's the fifth version of revisions that I've done for you. So it's always good to just be documented and yeah, so putting it on YouTube is a good way of freeing up space on your hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I actually do that with sequences sometimes. Depends on the project, but sometimes they'll be like, "Ooh, can we have for the intro, can we use that different B-roll shot?" And I've learned in the past that sometimes they're like, "Okay, for this next project, we actually want that first intro. I think that's good for this one." And I'm like, "I have to recut that and I have to redo it. Why
Mm.
didn't I just not save the export, but save the sequence so I can just copy paste and just the music's already there. This is there, but I can extend the music because the new thing is a bit longer because the whatever." So I actually iterate sequences um, for changes, especially on projects that are big. So like I had a project recently with 18 micro videos I had to do, and we had only 4 intros using the B-roll. So we had to like cycle them every 4 videos, change the intro. So yeah, definitely it was good having different iterations of the intros, including the ones they didn't approve, just in case they're like, you know what, maybe that one is good now that I've slept and thought about it.
Yeah, as long as you name them a good name and you can keep it organized, it's not like it adds any hard drive space or anything to having those different
Yeah,
sequences.
yeah.
And yeah, it's easier than like trying to undo or check back in your auto saves that are just named sequentially. Yeah, I do the same thing as you. Any major change, I'll duplicate the sequence and then I can always go back if I need to.
And
That's
to keep it from getting too messy, again, in your editing software, you can just make folders to organize this stuff, like main sequences, backup sequences, or whatever, like approved intros, rejected intros. That way you don't
Mhm.
have like everything stacked up in your library.
True.
Yeah. And other than that, I think that's pretty much it for my workflow. I do, when I'm giving a preview to a client, I do watermark it with a time code at the bottom, um,
Hmm.
and give like low quality, like 480p or something. Or sorry, yeah, I'll either give 480p, which is unusable by today's standards, or I'll give full HD if they need to see details, but I'll put like a time code there. So
Uh,
that's part of my workflow for, okay, here's the work that I've done, but until you pay me, you're not getting it. But here's the proof that I've done it. And
mhm.
you're happy, you want it, you pay me.
And how do you share these videos with different clients for review? Do you use YouTube or do you use frame.io?
Most
Or...
mostly YouTube. Um, I've had a few use Dropbox or Google Drive, but yeah, it depends if they want to download it and pass it on to their bosses instead of passing on the link. They want to like bring it up in a board meeting, and they don't want to have to load up a YouTube and watch an ad or whatever.
Mm,
So sometimes it's better if they just get the file directly, even if
mm.
it's a time coded file.
Hmm.
It depends. Usually, if they don't say like, "Oh, can you give me a direct download?" I'll just supply a YouTube. But I've had plenty of times when they're like, "Can I also get a direct download?" Okay, sure.
Mm, cool.
Yeah, Nate. Oh, I think that's we talked about a lot of stuff. So that's our equipment and our workflow. Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, if anybody listening understood any of that nonsense, leave a comment with any questions or tips about your workflow that we might be able to adopt and steal as our ideas.
Yeah, it'd be actually interesting to see if anybody else does something that's revolutionary in their workflow or organizing or something. I think that's a wrap. That was a good talk today, Nate. We're really gotten really comfortable with these podcasts, and it's always a blast doing them with you, Nate. So thank you for doing these podcasts with me, and thank you for listening and watching our one viewers. Leave a comment or a message about topics you would like us to do or talk about, and give us, suggestions. Oh, I forgot one segment that we said we're gonna do. Romanian word of the week.
All right, hit me with the Romanian word of the week before we sign off here.
All right. Think about it really good. I'm gonna say lumina.
Lumina, is this Flash?
No, that was
Uh,
blitz.
Bleats, right? Lumina, okay.
Lumina.
Lumina, is that light?
Yeah. Well then,
Okay,
Nate. Yeah, means
nice.
lights. So lumina blitz. There you go. You can be
Ah.
a annoying photographer now. Quick smile in the light. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you for that Romanian word of the day and for being my co-host, Dorin. And thank you, dear viewer slash listener. Be sure to subscribe and click the little bell to be notified to not miss an episode of the Nate and Doran podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you use to listen to podcasts. This has been Nate and Doran. Thank you for watching and listening.